Everyone, this is Amber from final year, and today I'm going to show you how I typically do my digital sketchbook. If you have any questions, feel free to email me or message me on Instagram or anything. So here I'm just showing you how I set up my page, just sticking 20 pages in there. I've got facing pages on, so I will have a first page and then all my other pages will look like spreads until the very last page. I've just got the margins set up how the default is, and I haven't touched the bleed and slug because the idea isn't to print this. Essentially what I'm doing here is setting it up so my document will look how an actual landscape sketchbook would look. So I'm just opening my file here, and you'll see the first thing I've done, which I do with every sketchbook I do, is I literally have a list of what the brief is asking me for from this document. It just makes it easy to refer back to, and it also I like to use the literal language the brief uses just to show that I've ticked that box, and I've added a couple of things that are more relevant to my projects. So one of the main things I start with is the aesthetics of the thing. I think it's quite important to make sure the aesthetics of your document aligns with what your project is. It might not be as simple for you to do that with your current projects because it might take you a little while to figure it out, but I know the aesthetics of my project at the minute is very craft and surface design based, so I'm going to make my document look like how a literal sketchbook would look, because that just fits what I'm doing. So one of the most important things to remember with InDesign is that you need a dedicated folder for all the images you use in your document. So here I'm going to remove the binding image, and you'll see that in InDesign it immediately flags up that I've got an error at the bottom because it can't find that file anymore. So I would recommend just dumping any imagery you may or may not use into a folder dedicated for your digital sketchbook. Literally call it sketchbook images or something, and then you shouldn't run into too many issues with your links. At the end of every time you use your document, just double check what the links are doing and make sure everything's fine. It just saves you a lot of hassle down the road and makes sure the quality of the pictures always looks really good. So here now I'm starting to edit some pictures that I thought I wanted cut out. I ended up not going down this route, but one of the main things to take away from using InDesign is that I can save this as a Photoshop file once I'm done, and then literally just drop it into InDesign. I don't need to edit it into a JPEG or a PNG to make it work within the file. I can literally just drop a Photoshop file in there and it's all good. So here you can see I'm comparing them, and I eventually decided I didn't actually like the cutout versions, that I wanted to have images look like they were stuck in with masking tape because it looks a little bit more how things might be done in a physical sketchbook. So I'm just messing around with the opacity and things here, deciding what I like looks best. So I go in now with my drawing pad to draw over the image like I might do in an actual sketchbook to make changes to the toile. I add length to it and I do little things where I'm going to move the tie of my toile, and I plan to lower the neckline, and I'm also changing the way that I'm going to do my sleeve. So I've just drawn a circle around it and done an arrow off to the side like I might do in real life, and then when I go back into the document now, I will add typed up notes, and like so. So I'm essentially setting this up as if I've stuck in an image of the toile, drawn over it in pen, and then written some notes about the toile. all comes back to me trying to replicate a physical sketchbook. This might not be applicable for your project, and that's completely fine. That's just how I'm doing this. So you can see I keep zooming in and out. I'm just checking what it looks like when I'm on over a 2-page spread, because when I export this as a PDF, that is how the tutors will see it. So I'm just trying to make sure that it's sort of legible from that distance, and that they don't have to waste their time zooming in every 2 seconds to try and read what I've written because it's so tiny. It just makes life easier for everyone, really. So that's another one that I drew over, and I'm just messing around, making it look how I want it to. And I keep slightly tilting things so they're at an angle, enough that it's noticeable as well, so it doesn't look like I've just done it wrong. So now I'm going in with essentially just things to make the page look prettier. So I'm adding some splatters of paint that are relevant to my colour palette. I'm adding some fabric swatches that will be relevant to this garment. There's a tech drawing I'm about to pull in. You guys probably won't want to have as much going on, because I already had all these things. I already had images of my swatches, I already had a tech drawing for this garment, so that does make it a bit easier. But things like this are definitely nice ways to fill the page. Also, talking of filling the page, so as you can see there, my collection is very busy. It's full of prints, it's full of patterns, it's full of colours. So having my page quite busy and full is relevant to my project. If your project is a bit more minimalist, then I would recommend having your pages look a little bit more minimalist and things like that. Just always just be thinking about how relevant it is to the project aesthetically. So here I'm just dropping in an illustration that will probably get redone later in the project, but for this initial page it's fine to have that rough sketch. So I decided to move it over because it's not really a first page. First I want to have images, but ones that aren't in about details, so literally just a series of images that show the toiling process. That I don't necessarily need to write about every single little thing. The images tell the tutors and show what I've been doing as I progress. The more images you take of everything you're doing, the less you have to explain what you've been doing. They can see the step by step right there. This isn't a perfect example. I did have gaps, but where the garment was half done and then it was suddenly done because I didn't take as many images as I should have, but yeah. So I'm just making them all look the same, so you can see I went back quickly just to check what the opacity was so they all look similar. So from now on I will always use the same opacity for the masking tape and for the imagery, just so it all looks cohesive. So you can see here I'm just placing the images and making them look nice. So this is essentially how I will do my digital sketchbook. The aim for myself is to make it look like a physical sketchbook, which can be quite fun to do if you are more comfortable working that way. And yeah, just going based off the aesthetics of the project that you want to create and just making sure everything's cohesive and pretty. Like, the content is obviously hugely important. Always refer back to the brief, but I feel like the aesthetics drive the way I do. So to recap, I like to use InDesign because it's easy to drop in files from Photoshop and Illustrator, and it also produces high quality PDFs. I always keep a list from the brief in my folder to make sure my content is what the brief is asking me for. I always match my visuals with I try to match my visuals with the vibe of the project, whether it's minimalist, cluttered, busy, retro, modern. You have to always keep a folder of InDesign images to make sure your links aren't all messed up and that everything is nice and easy when you come to export it later. And make sure you have fun and experiment with your layouts. Like, the more you do it, the more you'll find you enjoy it, or at least that's how it was for me. Good luck with everything, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I'm always happy to help.